It's 7:10 p.m. Today is December 15th, 2014. This is the meeting of the Town of Brattleboro Developmental Review Board. Let's see. First, I'll call this to order and note that sitting in place of Brian Bannon, who's usually our zoning administrator, is acting zoning administrator Rod Francis. Although we only have one application tonight, and I know that the applicants are familiar with DRB procedure, I am going to go through the opening remarks for the people sitting at home, so please be patient. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Developmental Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means that we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. In the event our decision is appealed to the Environmental Court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decisions of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this meeting. As we're on the record, we're going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So, would the applicants please rise? Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you'll give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. Applicants require a majority vote of the full board to succeed. That means 4 votes out of 7. If we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we'll consider a request to continue your application to the next public meeting. As you can see, applicants, we have 5 tonight. Do you have in mind your position on that?
We're going to ask for a continuance for a different reason anyways.
Okay.
Okay, but well, I think it'd be good to discuss some of the issues that have just been presented to us right now.
Sure. Sure. So we'll do that. After taking the testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant or other interested parties. The first item is to review our minutes from, I believe, the November 17th meeting. Do I have the date right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, let's have a motion on that.
Motion to approve the minutes.
So motion.
Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So that passes 5-0. I see a new gentleman just came into the room. You just missed my taking the oath in case anybody wants to testify. Do you think you'll be testifying?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, if you do, if you change your mind, just remind me that I haven't sworn you in so that your testimony can be part of the record. For the confirmation that the meeting has been properly warned, I'll note for the record that Brian Bannon, the zoning administrator who was responsible for arranging the warning, signed a letter dated December 11th, 2014, confirming that the December 15th, 2014 meeting of the Brattleboro Development Review Board has been properly warned. Disclosures of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. I left Craig a voicemail today that does not relate to this application, so I don't think that there's any issue there. Let's see, let's begin with application 2014-179. Can you tell us about your project?
asking for approval for subdivision approval of 3 lots at 90 Technology Drive. The property is undeveloped at this point, and we're asking for a lot of 4.7 acres, 3.4 acres, and 11.5 acres of the parcel. The access to the parcel is through a proposed right-of-way, 50-foot right-of-way from Technology Drive into each parcel. A portion of that is already constructed and services the other lot north of the parcels that we're discussing. There's also easements for stormwater from related to the other parcels on the off the property that are served on this property here. I think the intent here, I think, is that we're going to develop solar facilities there, if you want.
Yeah, I think, not to step on Peter's toes there, but my name's Eric Nelson with Winstanley Enterprises. So first I'd like to thank the board for making the time tonight, especially when there's only one item in the agenda, so we appreciate your time and appreciate you coming out. This is really kind of the first, as this board I think is aware, we were before you probably a year or so ago as the first step in the process to subdivide what was then Lot C at this site to do the standard offer solar project at 90 Technology Drive. And so that has recently been commissioned mid-September, and that's online now. And this is really kind of the first step in a similar but under a different program with the state to hopefully do perhaps up to 3 500 kilowatt net metered solar projects. So really this is the first step in the process, just like it was with the speed standard offer 2 megawatt project, is to come before the Development Review Board, Act 250, CPG, and so that's the reason for coming before the board tonight.
I see the stormwater easement. That's very clear. What about electricity and water for each of the individual parcels?
Well, if they in fact require that, electricity or water and sewer, they would be constructed within the 50-foot right-of-way.
Okay. Any reason you couldn't formalize those with easements for the...
I think we could just include them in easements on the right-of-way. That would be the way to do it, if that's...
So the intent, if I understand this, the intent is ultimate intent would be 3 separate, or potentially 3 separate solar projects, one sitting on each of those lots?
That's correct. So up to 3 under the net metered statute program. Maximum size is 500 kilowatts per project. You require 3 to 5 acres per project to do a 500 kilowatt array. So there's room to do 3 projects here. There are other issues under the net meter program that we would have to overcome. So the maximum we could do is 3, but there's some other issues that we would have to work through the CPG process and the Public Service Board.
Now, you saw in the staff memo the note about the West River Trail connectivity. I realize this is putting you on the spot to some degree, but do you have any idea if it's feasible or infeasible to provide some type of easement so that the West River Trail can access the...
Well, I don't think we've had a full conversation about it yet. You kind of took us off guard.
Sure, I understand that.
It's possible, I would say, that, this right-of-way or something, you could extend it.
I think we're open to see how it would fit in. Obviously, we know the West River Trail is there, and we're aware of that. I think we're willing to be reasonable, and we're through working with Peter to see how we could accommodate that request. I think obviously there's issues we would have to address, just security, whether it's even doable. But I think we would definitely be reasonable.
Peter, is this lot flat? There's
The
no
lot- the
contours
lot-
on this.
Yeah,
we
the
don't,
lot
we don't have any
itself
contours right now.
Right, they're different plateaus, and this plateau is, I'm going to say 30 feet below the one that the building is on. I mean, it might not be 30, but it's in that range,
Yep.
okay, below. So there is a hill going down, and there will have to be there is actually an access road, right, a farm access road down to it right now.
Yep.
So that would have to be improved. There's actually, in truth, another farm access road from this plateau down to the West River Trail, which again is 30 to 50 feet below this field. So it's physically possible, but I'll tell you that it's not going to be flat getting between them. It's going to be fairly steep.
There is an
access.
elevation change from where the existing building is down to the West River Trail, but the site where the 3 arrays would be located is relatively flat.
So the 3 arrays, the way you see this executing with the 3 arrays would be on the north side on the higher plateau, below the existing structures or buildings, but not on. There's a, what do you call it? An easement running through here for electricity, it states. So it would be on the north side of that.
It would be.
Nothing on the river side of that.
That's right.
So the river, and I'm assuming that the river trail is, or the West River Trail is on the lower elevation. I've never walked it, but it's on the lower elevation.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any development proposed? Do you see anything happening on the south side of the, what's called the old
What's the old railroad? bed?
West Railroad tracks, or what? On the south side?
We have no plans for any development at this point. I mean, I think we're always looking at what is the highest and best use for our,
Okay.
excess land. At this point, there's no plans to expand the existing building or undertake new development, perhaps beyond the solar
Okay.
arrays.
So, partly the reason I ask is that this first of all, there's flood hazard in a certain area of this lot, I'm given to understand. And secondly, there is a 100-foot shoreline setback, which aren't shown either.
Yeah, the flood hazard is down essentially probably below or at the location of the West River Trail. This project, the project they're talking about doing is much higher in elevation.
Okay.
On another plateau. Again, I don't know, 30 feet or whatever above the river, maybe more than that even, on a separate plateau. So that area is not in the flood hazard zone at all, where they're talking about.
It would be, I don't know what we're going to stipulate when we come to finally do a subdivision, but if we can get the flood hazard zone shown on the
Easily
plat,
done.
and we can get the West River, the approximate location of the West River Trail shown on the plat, and we can get the shoreland setback shown on the plat.
Yeah, those are all easy to do.
And then obviously within that shoreline setback,
buffer.
shoreline buffer, thank you, there's, with the possible exception of planting, a vegetative buffer, there's really sort of no land development or no land movement or no excavation or all of the normal requirements that fit in a shoreline buffer. That in itself does not impact, obviously, the subdivision. I have one other question too, and that's looking at the lot lines on here. You have Lot B1, which seems well defined, Lot B2 that seems well defined, Lot B3, which appears to encompass the railroad bed and down to the river and the entire length of the property.
Yeah, what we've done here is incorporated in Lot B3 the land on both sides of the railroad bed, into that one lot.
Okay,
Which
so
it is, right?
B1 and B2 have no access to the river. They don't go down to the river.
That's right, they would not.
Okay. Just looking at the dotted lines on here, it's not completely clear to me that what B3 encompasses. I mean, I know there's a note there that says B3 has 6 acres on one side of the river, on one side of the railroad easement, and 5 on the other, or 5.4 on the other. But shouldn't the lot lines be contiguous? Maybe they are. For that lot, for B3? Or am I misreading the dotted lines?
Well, I mean...
Or is it implicit?
Yeah, I think... I mean, this is the conventional way to show what we're...
Okay. I guess let me rephrase the question. The lands, the 6.1 acres west of the railroad bed are connected to the 5.4 acres to the other side of the railroad bed. There's no, all these dotted easement lines here, there's no disconnection. It's one lot.
It's the plan is to have it as one lot, that's correct. Now,
Okay.
there is the railroad, the old railroad right-of-way through there, which is shown.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, why does the line between B1 and B2 make a jag?
Yeah, it does that for the, I would think, the initial planning on how things are going to lay out.
You mean
Solar
to
panels.
get in the number of panels, the maximum number that you can...
The
put
number
in
that
there?
they need, really, and
Yeah, I think it's, it's a little bit of art and science, but I think that the lot lines are initially drawn to accommodate the preliminary layout of each 500 kilowatt array.
Everybody on the board set?
Do you have a plan with the contours on it?
no, but we could get that for you. We do have contours for most of this area. I don't have it for, I don't think I have it for the land south of the railroad right-of-way, but I have it for the rest of the area.
If you could, I mean, if we are going to continue, then if you could provide it for next summer. The last question I have is, so there's stormwater easements from the other lot, which cover some sections of this lot. Are there any stormwater issues on these lots, or will there be any issues on these lots?
No, I mean, what you're doing is, you've got the panels there, but they basically drain right off to the ground, this area already.
Yeah. So there'll be no net increase.
No
there'll be
net increase.
no increase in net flow off the
Right,
property.
yeah.
I mean, we're looking at the subdivision right now rather than what you're going to put on it, but
Right, if something else was going to go on it, in that case, you'd have to accommodate whatever was going to go on there. And design,
if you decided you were going to put 3 mansions on there,
that's right.
then with beautiful West River views, or that somebody was to remove the panels and replace them with 3 mansions, then we would have some concern about a number of other things,
That's right.
which actually are a concern now, because there's no guarantee that this is going
but
to
you
be
would cover-
developed as solar installations.
Right, you would cover that under your site plan review, though, of course, for anything that came in.
Under minor residential development, we would never see it for site plan review.
That's
So
true.
we would wish to cover it now. Right, it's
Well-
not coming back to us.
Let me give you a little background about the whole stormwater situation there, okay? The stormwater plan that was designed for this was designed for the full build-out of the Northeast Co-op site. And That's about approximately 3 times what the building is out there right now. And the associated parking and loading docks and all that type of thing. And so if you ever go up there in a storm, you'll see those ponds up there, or those depressions that are supposed to be stormwater ponds with almost no water in them. And the overflow from those goes down to an area that's been regraded in this field, except for water never goes down there right now because there's not enough impervious. So what I'm saying, in effect, is that the whole thing was, at this point, is way over-designed. It's down there. So anything else that was going down there would have minimal effect. You know, if it's a single-family home, for example. If it's more than that, then they got to come in for site plan approval.
Yeah, inherently this is a residential district, so
Right.
it's owned residential, so I think it would be, it doesn't mean it couldn't be changed or someone couldn't come in for a commercial application, but this area here, I believe, is all
Right. But I wanna-
residential. I'm not sure where the boundaries lie, but
I think the way back when people were thinking that this would be developed highly intensely for residential, you know, which would...
you mean this 21 acres?
Right, which would come under your review also.
Correct. But once it becomes 4-acre lots, 20-acre lots, or over 10 acres, yes, but once we've approved the subdivision and it's all under 10, then, well, one of them's 11, but we don't get to see it. That's it for me.
Okay. Anything from the public? I got to swear you in.
Yes, you do.
Here
I'm
it-
only asking questions. That's all right.
Well, just the same. Can you raise your right hand? Do you hereby swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the cause under consideration will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you just state your name since we're on the record here?
Yes, my name is Jason Cooper, and I work with the West River Trail. And Adam and Stanley's been very generous to let us reroute the trail up onto this particular piece of land while the bridge is being renovated, so we are able to keep the trail open. And I was a little unclear at the very beginning. You said something about that this project might affect the trail.
No, I don't think it
Can
would
you-
affect the trail.
You direct your
Yeah.
comments to the board, not to the applicant. Thank you.
So I just wanted to know if this was going to affect the trail in any way. In the short term, which is through the end of the construction of the bridge, we have the trail routed up onto that plateau, and the expectation is that the trail will be back onto the original rail bed once the bridge work is completed. But I was wanting to know if this would have any effect either in the short term on the upper piece or the lower piece later on.
Yeah,
It certainly wouldn't on the long term, for sure, because you'd be back on the original trail. And again, this, as you know, is way up above.
Yes.
So it absolutely would not have any long-term effect. Short term, I guess you guys would have to...
yeah, short term, I think we'd have to figure it out, Jason, and continue to work with you, as I think we have in the past, and trying to find a route that works.
Sure, and just the other comment is that we were able to kind of connect that trail up to New Chapter because the New Chapter people had been using the trail, and we improved that path so that they would have easier access to the trail, and hopefully would like to keep that accessible for them if possible, because they have been making good use of the connection to the trail. It's been a great asset to it.
Mr. Cooper, does the trail connect to the road that's there right now, the dirt portion
And then
there?
take a look and see what road you're referring to.
So this dirt road that goes beyond.
Well, this
the
actually is
chapter.
not I don't think that's a dirt road. I think that's the drainage swale that you're seeing
Oh.
the bottom of. So right now, the trail, well, there's a couple of ways. Sometimes people will come down this and kind of cut across to right about here. And here's where it gets steep, going right down here. I think you can just about make that out. So from here down to there is steep, and that's the part that we improved.
Right.
And our expectation was that the trail was going to follow the top edge of the swale into this corner of the parking lot. But it seems like the people from New Chapter who have been using it have sort of worn a little more of a trail down this way, the other edge of the field, but they're clearly using it still.
Okay. And Peter, is what he's talking about a swale or an old road or what?
There's two farm access roads. I'm sure that's what you're using. I don't have a photograph. There's two farm access roads. One which is in this area right here.
So we're talking.
So this, that's the swale, isn't it? Right
Right.
there, that gray lighter.
What we've done is the swale is right here,
Yes.
okay, at the top.
Just
This road
for-
is-
for
this
our
road is-
benefit-
Oh, you're going-
Hold on. We need to hear this too. so-
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's
All
okay.
right, so the swale is to the north of the proposed 50-foot right-of-way.
And
Okay.
Okay.
just so everybody here can follow along, am I correct, Peter, that the swale is basically following the 50-foot right-of-way on
That's
the
correct.
original parcel?
Right, and
Okay.
it's just to the north of it,
Okay.
okay?
So-
What I'm pretty sure that what they're using, there was an old farm access, which I had referred to earlier, that's not directly on this right-of-way shown here. It's more, it's more in this area over here,
Okay.
okay? And then the other one, from this trail here, comes up someplace fairly close to this property line up into that field.
Yes.
But
And that, I'm sure that's what they're using now, because, you know, well, I could drive it with a four-wheel drive vehicle, but
Okay.
you wouldn't drive it with a car.
So just to be clear, and can you just go over to that microphone so when you answer my questions, you're on the record? The original intent was to get the part of the trail you just showed me that was developed to hit the swale and have the swale be the eventual connector to the rest of the world there.
No. That, along the edge of the swale was the anticipated connection where New Chapter would use to access the trail. The temporary trail was moved from the original rail bed just up onto the edge of the plateau,
Right.
and then parallel to the old railroad bed until it went underneath the interstate bridge and then dropped back down.
I don't mean the temporary.
Okay.
I mean,
The access for New Chapter?
it occurs to me you may not have been here when I initially asked the people at New Chapter these questions, but I wanted to know how an easement from the West River Trail could get out towards Putney Road. And I'm wondering if the West River Trail people envision it being along that swale, which is where the right-of-way will be for the other parcels.
That would be wonderful. I mean, from our perspective, any connectivity that allows more access and use of the trail is a benefit to everybody.
Okay.
Anytime you can get people off Putney Road and onto the trail to make whatever direction they're doing it safer for everybody.
Okay. Now, there is a possibility, though, that this development could impact the temporary trail as it is right now?
Perhaps, and I don't know what the timing would be, and I don't know. We'd have to
Well,
look at that closer.
But that's
Wouldn't
not
that be based on, sorry, James, wouldn't that be based on the completion of the bridges over 91? Because once the bridges are completed, then the trail can drop back, sure.
Sure, yeah, that's,
And I don't know what the timescale is for the bridges, but I'm going to guess it's not
Year and a half.
another 18 months, yeah. So
Okay.
is the development one or two or three of these lots likely to develop within 18 months?
I don't know the answer to that, but they would have to be, if we pursue them, within the next 2 years. So, not to get off on a tangent, but one of the components of not just these projects, but really any solar projects, is the investment tax credit, federal investment tax credit, and that's set to expire at the end of 2016. So you have to be online and commissioned by 12/31/16 in order to avail yourself of the investment tax credit. And without the investment tax credit, really the solar projects become financially unfeasible.
And we wouldn't want to adversely impact what they're doing. I mean, they've been great to work with, and we don't want to interfere with that. I would hope that if it comes down to the overlap, that maybe we can work together, that they're not mutually exclusive. The trail runs right along the very leading edge of the drop down to the old railroad bed. It's a nice alternative route. If that's not a problem, how can we work together to meet both of these?
Okay, but just to be clear, that's not the traditional trail. This is a...
That's not the original trail. Correct.
and
It's a temporary trail,
Okay.
correct.
I understand from your earlier comments you wanted to continue, but let me make an alternative suggestion for you guys to consider at your pleasure. We identified a number of issues here. The easements for power and water will follow the 50-foot easement and be formalized. You're going to show the special flood hazard area and the shoreline buffer. And you're obligated by the ordinance, section 2355D1, to have a connection to the West River Trail. And it sounds like there's at least some meeting of the minds on how that would happen in the long term, unrelated to the temporary trail. Would the applicant be interested, if the board will do this, and I don't know if they will like this idea, in an approval with those conditions and a time period to meet those conditions to the satisfaction of the zoning administrator, so that if you can do what we seem to agree is not a very laborious thing, you could simply go to the zoning administrator, not have to go through another Warren DRB meeting. We save an item on the agenda, you save a little time. Oh,
No, I think we have...
hold on. Mr. Acting Zoning Administrator.
The current zoning district is residential, and my initial reaction to this is that it may be that under Public Service Board Act 248 or Section 248 requirements, that 3 separate 500 kilowatt solar parks would qualify as a use compatible with the residential use. But I think that the operating assumption behind the town's memo to you and the way the matter was warned, it wasn't clear that the applicant was intending this type of development, and I would ask respectfully that in light of the information that's been shared tonight, it may warrant a separate warning and a more specific description of the intent on the part of the applicants.
Okay.
Jason's still standing.
Yes, I'm sorry. Please. Are you staying there because I asked you to?
I believe so.
Or do you have more to say?
That's
Okay.
all I had.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a few comments.
Please.
My name's Craig Miskovich. I'm the attorney to Towns Rockland and Martin. I represent the
I'm sorry,
applicant.
Craig, were you sworn in?
I am an
He's
attorney.
attorney.
And
Oh,
as such,
okay.
I don't give evidence before the tribunal.
Oh.
I represent my client, and I'm bound by my ethical obligations to speak truthfully to tribunals.
All right.
So if I do lie to you, you can have my lawyer's license. I just want to address the acting zoning administrator's comments. Like the what we call Lot C application for the larger solar facility, the standard offered for the solar facility, these solar facilities would similarly be exempt from local review for any development, and they're just subject to Act 250. I'm sorry.
248.
Section 248.
248.
248 does give the opportunity for the town to participate. The town would be an interested party in that matter, could participate in 240. But specifically by legislation, review and approval of a solar facility is not before a local board, before the public works.
Okay. Do you want to...
I don't believe that's a substantive rebuttal of my suggestion, which is we now have information from the parties indicating what their intent is, and that wasn't part of the warning.
Again, just to address that comment, we're only here for subdivision. That's what we warned for. That's what the previous time we were here before the board back for the standing offer project was similarly warned as a subdivision. That's what we're here for.
Well, that's true. The zoning district is different, and the requirements for a residential subdivision are different from the industrial land that was previously subdivided for a larger solar panel project.
Again.
So again, what I would restate is that in support of Mr. Cuthbertson's requests, that there is information that's missing from this application that would be more appropriate for the board to consider in full.
And finally, again, the use of that lot is going to be determined and approved by the 248 process, not the
Again,
that's if it's used as a
right. While that is
solar development.
right, while that is true, that matter hasn't been resolved yet. You have the obligation as the DRB to ensure that the application is complete and all the necessary information that you need for a subdivision in a residential zoning district is provided.
And I think the board beautifully went through the application and identified a few items. So I'm not sure, is it that you want the board to ask the questions, or do you want to be rewarned for a new hearing? Because now I'm confused.
You are making a generous offer to have the zoning administrator administratively approve a revised plan that showed the information that you requested. I believe on the basis of the intent shown by the applicants and the information that you're now in receipt of, it would be more appropriate for public process that the matter is rewarned and the application is complete.
Again, I don't mean to be obstinate, I'm confused. If a rewarning suggests that the warning for a subdivision didn't put the community at large on notice that we were going to talk about subdivisions tonight. We're talking about a subdivision tonight. I don't know what we would rewarn it as other than another subdivision. Like, we would ask that the board continue the hearing. Actually, that was a request that we were going to make even before the board identified these items. The items are lengthy enough, I think it would be appropriate for us to resubmit a plan with these items identified. But to rewarn a hearing suggests that you haven't warned it for its proper purpose, which is the discussion about subdivision.
I'm quite content that it has been warned correctly.
I don't dispute the correct nature of this warning. I believe that if a continuance was provided, it would give the applicants the necessary time to assemble the necessary information and the board enough time to review the information that was provided to them.
We would just continue this hearing, though. We wouldn't rewarn it.
You could continue it.
A continuation doesn't change the warning. The warning is as is.
No, I'm not saying that you have. I would say that you're in receipt of new information, and that gives you cause to consider that. But in light of, I'm responding to the chair's generous offer, and I would prefer that a continuance of this hearing be what is proffered.
Okay. Well, let me hear from the rest of the board, because what do you guys think?
I think I need a little recap of what this debate is all about.
So, my suggestion was that since it sounds like the applicant is willing to do everything that's been suggested by the board thus far, but is not able to tell us exactly how, for instance, they're going to connect the West River Trail to to make bicycle and pedestrian connections with the West River Trail, that rather than have them come back for a meeting, we simply tell them they have to do that. They have to do it within, say, 60 days. And if the zoning administrator is not satisfied that they've done it correctly or that they've done it pursuant to the law, they would have to come back to us. But if he is, then it would be considered approved.
And what is the problem with that?
Actually, I don't mean to interrupt, but I can probably kind of short-circuit this conversation. Thank you for that generous offer. We'd rather not take you up on that. We prefer to have a continuance. And the reason is we'd rather not have a decision of the board approving a subdivision that after we do our additional due diligence and review recent Public Service Board cases suggests we're going to go in a different direction. And then we have an approved subdivision we have to unwind. We'd rather
Thank you.
Have this conversation tonight, continue the hearing, and before the next board meeting, we'll know more about our opportunities to develop the properties, and we think we want to and can. But if that changes, we'll let you know, and we won't have that unwind when we approve subdivision.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfectly valid.
So then it sounds like everybody agrees on a continuance, and if someone wants to make the motion to continue it without prejudice, I think that's appropriate. Did you want to respond to Spoon while we're talking about this and it's fresh in
Well,
mind?
I'm okay
You're
myself
content?
right
Okay.
now.
Good.
But,
Happy to hear it.
I do have one last question. I haven't looked in the book, but residential lots have setbacks, obviously, and once we split this into, well, if this is split, subdivided into 3 lots, that you have adequate space for your development, bearing in mind the setbacks of those lots, which I think are 25 feet, are they?
Chair,
I think
Yes.
you do.
under section 248, the local zoning requirements to setbacks don't apply for solar panel developments.
Thank you. Yeah. 248. Anything, anywhere you want.
Just don't talk about windmills. Let's have this motion to continue before we forget, though. Unless there's more.
I'm making a motion to continue application 2014-179 to a date of January the 12th.
19.
Or is it 19th?
it's a holiday. Will that be the 21st, Wednesday?
Fine.
This would be the typical meeting. This is Martin Luther King Day, and the town has begun to recognise the contribution Dr. King made to civil rights.
Don't we go with the third Monday or the second or third?
Third.
So we'll have it
The 21st.
Should be the
Wednesday, the 21st.
20th. Okay. We got a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Nothing from the applicant? You're all set? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before we go, I have a couple of administrative matters. It's 8:50. We just had BCTV come back on.
7:50.
7:50. Geez, I wish. Huh? I understand, Mr. Cadron, you wanted to address an issue, and I think it relates to an application that I had to recuse myself from, that there's no decision on yet. So, although I'm not sure I have to do this, I'm going to exercise my discretion and step out and hand the baton to you while this discussion occurs.
Thank you.
So I've never talked about stuff post the meeting where decisions were made. I wasn't here in November because I had the flu. I was out. And
Which application are you wishing to
yes,
talk about?
the application was. I don't know if Rob has it. I don't have the application number in front of me, but it was the Dead River application.
Fleming.
Fleming, yep.
An appeal of the zoning administrator's decision about the additional parking spaces that they created.
Yep.
Under my understanding, the board went ahead and approved, basically sided with Dead River in that the zoning administrator's determination was wrong, that they could in fact go ahead with the creation of those private parking spots.
Yep.
Which is in direct contradiction of the zoning regulations for the urban center, which very clearly state that no additional private off-street parking can be created.
Yep.
And so I don't know, I was just a little flabbergasted as to why.
Well, your option at this point is to request that we go, the board, the entire board, or those that sat on that application goes into deliberative session. If you wish to do that, then we can move into deliberative session at a date that we will set as and when we can get the other 2 members who aren't here at this point in time to discuss it.
Okay, but how does that work in terms of a timetable for writing the decision?
We have approximately 15 days to do that before there's a decision. Approximately, I don't know the exact date. It would be 45 days from the date of the hearing, and the hearing was on the 17th or the 15th.
No, the 17th.
It was also impacted by a holiday.
No.
No. What was it?
It was
Sorry.
17th.
No, was it the 17th?
Yes, it was the 17th.
So 45 days from that would be 17th.
No, we have time to do it if we wish to do it. If you feel sufficiently strongly about it, then the option at this point is the decision for that one has not been written, has not been finished. Then you can request a deliberative session if you wish.
I would like to request one. I think it's warranted.
Okay.
Given the zoning laws.
Okay.
You suggested that was one option. Is there another?
That's the only option.
That's the only option.
Yep.
So.
Because even though to all intents and purposes the board can go, the hearing is closed, or the appeal is closed because we are no longer in public, but the board can enter into deliberative session between the point at which we close the hearing and the point at which the decision is due, and we are within that 45-day schedule right now. So deliberative, so we can't discuss it now because we're not all present, but we could enter deliberative session and rediscuss it. So I will.
And when
is
will
Brian,
we discover-
Brian is away right now, or is ill?
Yes, he should be back later this week, but I can request.
I'll do it myself. I will send an email to all parties involved with that, including yourself now, and
Can we meet next Monday?
it would depend on the other members.
Yeah, being able to get, but what I'm saying is the sooner the better.
Correct.
Yeah, given the time here. Why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, Tim, including in your email the planning department administrator.
That's a natural. It's a given.
Oh, so then she can monitor it.
It would automatically. It would have to go to the zoning administrator, so it's on the.
Yes.
So the record is kept on the town.
Yes.
Service.
And is there anything that you would seek in terms of information from the zoning administrator?
I don't believe so at this point, but if there is, we'll do that. And we would, more likely than not, wish to convene in the planning department.
Correct. Okay.
All right.
And well, I think it might be helpful to at least have as written what the zoning ordinance is.
You have a book, don't you?
I think I do.
You have a book.
I don't know. It's been a few years.
What's the,
well, it's also online too.
Yeah, I mostly
The entire thing is
use online
That's,
anyway. So.
All right, so let's just do the following. I will send an email around. We'll try and do it before next Monday.
Okay.
If we can do it this week, I would prefer to do it this week. That's at all possible.
is it printed out?
The decision?
No. All the relevant regulations. I don't want to have to look through the book there. I just want to see, as we see in all our applications, whenever there's an issue, the zoning administrator prints out the regulations that we need to be
Do you
aware of.
have your packet?
I have the book at home, so
No,
you
but
can
you have the
No, I don't
appeal
have
from
the-
last time.
No, I left it all here. Like,
Okay.
We will electronically send out the documents that went out
Right.
for the appeal.
That's one thing I can do tomorrow. So once you've established, I think it was Spoon, you, Becca, and Joe.
And Michael.
And Michael was also there? Okay. So I will resend the...
Actually, to the entire board minus James.
Okay. So I will resend that section from the packet, and I'll make sure that the section of the zoning ordinance that describes.
That was included as part of the package.
That's fine.
All right.
Anything else?
All
So
right.
just
Well,
to
let's do-
clarify, you're saying you're trying to get it done this week, before next weekend?
What is your
that-
availability? Are you not available this week?
No, just trying to,
I would rather start out assuming that we could meet as soon as possible,
Yep.
and if it drifts into next week, otherwise we're into holidays.
yep.
And
understood.
people will be disappearing for Christmas.
I work in retail. The holidays started months ago.
Right.
I would prefer to try and do it at the earliest
So
opportunity.
you were around this week also, then?
Me? Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
For the most part.
Now, also, I should say, if people are reviewing that section of the ordinance and they need clarification or assistance, then they should feel free to contact the office.
Okay.
Do you want to, James?
Motion to adjourn?
He may have more.
Oh.
Thank you.
So we're all done with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to discuss before we close the meeting?
How many quarts of ice cream have you handed out?
0. Big fat 0.
Not encouraging.
And I mean, I'll take special orders and get people's favorite flavors. You know, it doesn't just have to be vanilla or sweet cream. You can have
What was that? That's right. You
That's right,
were offering
for
ice
every-
cream as a reward.
not just any ice cream spoon. From the Walpole Creamery.
Oh, the
The
Walpole.
finest ice cream, in my opinion, that I've ever tasted.
Right.
And to admit that a New Hampshire institution has superior dairy products to Vermont,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
feel like I'm twisting a knife in my own back.
I know.
But
Well-
it's really good.
Motion
Don't
to
you wish
adjourn.
you could try this ice cream?
Well, now I think it's time to begin a recall on you.
And by the way, I'm not paid any cent by Walpole Creamery. But that being said, if you join our board,
That's right.
find out for
Was
free.
it a quart or a gallon?
It was a half
gallon.
gallon.
It was a gallon.
A gallon?
It was a gallon, that's what I
No,
thought.
this isn't some podunk
Yeah,
small
no, this is
town
a
operation.
serious headhunting operation here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion
Okay.
to adjourn, sir?
I'll just call that a motion.
Yep.
Seconded.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All through. Thanks.
Thank you.